Oh, hello. I thought I heard someone come in. You know, I really should get a better security system. More than what I have now, at least. There are a lot of robberies this time of year, and you can never be too careful. Like someone could be trying to break in here right now as we speak. See what I mean? I should really take care of this. First, let's open a present. Of course, an old favorite. Imagine what it would be like if your parents left you home alone for Christmas. And to make matters worse, these bad guys are trying to rob every house in the neighborhood. What would you do? Well, here's your chance. It's Home Alone on Sega Genesis. Home Alone was a mega hit of the early 90s. Grossing money just shy of movies like Star Wars and E.T., it's no wonder people still talk about it to this day. You know what they don't talk about? The video games. There are a lot of Home Alone games spanning across half a dozen systems, and I'll admit, most of them are pretty terrible. But it's not like one studio cranked all these puppies out. You have almost as many studios' point of view to explore here as you do games. Brian A. Rice Inc., a small developer out of the suburbs of Chicago, in my eyes, made the best of the bunch. I remember getting a Sega Genesis for Christmas in 1993, and you bet your butt my parents got me a copy of Home Alone to go with it. I've been a big fan of Macaulay Culkin throughout my life, and as a child I even went as far as creating my own booby traps for my bedroom because of Home Alone, warding off all unwanted family members and entrants. The premise for the game is essentially an inflated version of the original film's climax. Kevin is left home alone and the wet bandits are determined to loot every house in the neighborhood. He has already called the police and needs to defend the neighborhood against Marv and Harry until the cops arrive. Each house is its own themed area and all of them are accessible during the game. There is the country house, the colonial, the old house, the ultra-modern house, and of course, the McAllister Mansion. The game is essentially a mini open-world experience, and it's up to you as Kevin to protect all of the houses from being looted by the wet bandits, causing them pain as they scour around the neighborhood. The game offers two different difficulty settings. Beginner mode is a 20-minute game, and the houses the wet bandits attempt to burglarize are always in the same order. Expert mode lasts for 40 minutes, but makes the game more roguelike. Item placement is never the same, and the house order is completely random. Because of the lengthy time limit here, there is no doubt you'll have to protect certain houses more than once. Stay on your toes and be ready, because the longer Marv and Harry are in houses by themselves, the quicker they will be able to loot everything. The objective is to fill their pain meter faster than they can empty all of the safes littered around the houses. Once you have accomplished this, the bandits will flee and move on. Fail to do so and the house will turn blue and be completely flooded, making it off limits for the rest of the game. This is a fun nod to the Murphys' home in the original movie, which is the house Marv floods across the street from the McAllisters early on in the film. So there are 3 areas of play here. Each game begins with you outside on your sled, speeding through the neighborhood. Zoom around obstacles and collect items hidden in the snowmen and try to memorize their locations. This is a big help in expert mode since you're going to need all the supplies you can find, and having extra tires is crucial for reaching those hard to reach places. The sled is super fast, so be careful not to get too wild and run into everything. When you go to enter a house, you'll be greeted with a blueprint of the home and can point and click your way to booby-trapping each floor as you wish. As long as Harry and Marv aren't already there, that is. Parents, don't go too crazy. Nothing here is that dangerous.
Perfect.
Once inside, run around and see what you can find to help you in your quest for adolescent vigilante justice. Be sure to keep an eye out for hazards to Kevin as well. The ultra-modern house has a security robot. The colonial has this prisoner ghost from what looks like a war era. and the country house is being guarded by this claw-happy tabby cat. None of these obstacles hurt Kevin, he can't take damage, but they will slow him down. Luckily they do inflict pain on the bandits, so try and lure them into these obstacles whenever possible. Be careful not to get too close to Marv and Harry, or they'll grab you and hang you up by your sweater on the nearest hook. No big deal though, just tap the A, B, and C buttons to get down. Oh yeah, and your traps only trigger if Kevin is in the house at the same time Marv and Harry are, so be sure to keep that in mind. The most unique thing about this game is the weapons crafting system in the pause menu. Hidden in the snowmen out in the neighborhood and scattered throughout the houses are items which have no use on their own, but once combined create 22 different weapons you can use to inflict pain on Harry and Marv. Seriously, 22. The items are split up into 3 categories: platforms, operators, and ammunition. Each weapon requires 1 item from each category, and the logic that leads to their solutions actually makes sense. I love that you're utilizing these everyday objects in ways you might not have thought of before. Very clever. In beginner mode, the crafting system will automatically build out your weapons for you, but there are less of them. In expert mode, it's up to you to figure out how these pieces fit together, but there are more weapons to discover. I would suggest writing down all the solutions you find in beginner mode, then use your notes to play around and see what you can put together. Some weapons are weaker, but you can get a lot of miles out of them. Others are stronger, but eat up ammo like crazy. Aim carefully. My favorite gun by far is the Sonic Wave Gun. I love that awful noise it makes and how messed up Marv and Harry look when they get hit by it. Blast processing at its finest. Now, you want to talk about music? You want to talk about how beautiful these backgrounds are?
I could go on forever, baby.
The game's soundtrack was composed by the duo of Rolf Weber and Cliff Falls. Their multi-layered approach to the score and the game's sound effects stand out to me as some of the best on the system. My only complaint would be that I wish all of the traps made some kind of noise, but that's okay. Each of the house songs feel perfectly orchestrated for the theme of that area, and it's impossible for me to pick a favorite. Most songs in the game are hook-driven loops with similar tempos, but each one feels unique to itself. It's basically synth pop, and I love putting the soundtrack on when I'm working on stuff. The art of Home Alone is truly exceptional. The color palette is realistic and does a nice job emphasizing each area in the game. The character animations are well detailed, and the various effects of the weapons on Marv and Harry are hilarious. The glue gun makes them look like they're covered in boogers. It's so gross. The backgrounds are a whole other thing. The objects feel slightly oversized, which I think leans in nicely to the idea that you're playing as a kid here. I especially love the McAllister's entertainment system. Who knew that one day I would subconsciously emulate it for myself? One of the craziest things I learned while doing my research was that Jeff Lee worked as a graphic artist for this game. He's responsible for creating a particular MC Escher-inspired 80s arcade game that is one of my personal favorites. And probably one of yours too. Whoa! Sometimes when I'm playing these old games, I think that I've fully explored them and that I'm just trying to rewind to my youth in a simpler time. But then, I'll surprise myself and come across something new. For instance, I always noticed this giant opening in the old house above the master bedroom, but didn't think there was a way up there. That is until I tried to use tires to bounce my way up through the opening, revealing the attic. A whole other floor of the house full of items and away from the wet bandits. Another example is this curb cut and hydrant on the bottom right of the neighborhood. This means there had to be a 6th house originally in the game, or at least room for it. They obviously took the time to fill in this area with trees, but forgot to take out the curb cut and hydrant. It makes me wonder, what was the other house supposed to be? Maybe it was the home of an even wealthier family, or a filthy house with piles of garbage everywhere, I don't know. The point is, this kind of stuff validates what I love about video games. They're like paintings or movies you can go inside of. What you find is up to you. Just like Kevin, My childhood loneliness never outweighed my desire to entertain myself. I guess that's another concept that's carried over into my adulthood. What? Anyway. In the end, as long as you've managed to keep the wet bandits from looting every house in the neighborhood, the cops will arrive and take them away. They'll even knight you with some level of rank depending on how many houses you saved and how well you did in the game. Justice is served. Finally, some peace and quiet. I thought the holidays were supposed to be relaxing. Anyway, you should probably head out too. Feel free and stop by again. Be sure and use the front door next time. It's safe, I promise. Oh, and I almost forgot. Merry Christmas.